Welcome to the Explainer. Today we're breaking down the massive 500-plus page LCMS Convention workbook to get you completely ready for Floor Committee 6. Look, I know hauling that giant book around is literally a workout in itself, so I'm incredibly glad you're taking the time to be here. If you're a delegate, your time is precious, and honestly, your decisions on the floor are absolutely crucial. So using today's business, Issue 1, the Convention Workbook, and the Committee 6 Amendment Guide, we're going to give you a crystal clear, highly structured look at Pastoral Ministry and Seminaries. Here is our agenda for today. We'll be tackling 1. Defining Committee 6. 2. Pathways to the pulpit. 3. The oversight tension. 4. Sustaining the servants. And finally, 5. Evaluating the amendments.
All right, let's jump right into Section 1, Defining Committee 6, focusing on its scope and the tensions built into it. To start, we have to understand that this committee deals with the literal lifeblood of the church. We're talking about the entire life cycle of a church worker. For instance, Resolution 611 tackles recruitment and the Set Apart to Serve initiative. The pastoral opportunity here is massive, right? Building a culture that actually raises up workers. But the risk? Well, it's assuming a Synod program works automatically on its own without igniting local congregational zeal. If we get recruitment right, we release real spiritual and relational capitals. So your huddle question should be, how does this empower local parishes? And your chairman-ready phrase for the mic is, I move to amend to ensure local congregational resources are explicitly prioritized.
Now, the key analytical lens for all of these resolutions is this fascinating push and pull between kingdom mission urgency and castle structural control. This right here is your guiding principle as a delegate. The Synod should exist to serve congregations, seminaries, districts, and the gospel witness, not to build unnecessary centralized control. What we really want is low control but high accountability. In short, kingdom over castle.
Moving right along to Section 2, Pathways to the Pulpit, looking at formation and flexibility.
Let's look at exactly how the church trains and certifies its pastors. The resolutions set up a pretty heavy contrast between the standard residential Master of Divinity, the M.Div, found in Resolution 6-04, and alternate routes like the Specific Ministry Pastor or SMP program in 6-06. Plainly speaking, 6-04 strongly affirms residential formation, and the pastoral opportunity there is incredibly deeply formed pastors. But the castle risk? A strong defensive residential formation might accidentally ignore the massive real-world barriers like cost, housing, family relocation, and reaching underserved rural contexts.
So Resolution 604 affirms both routes are necessary for Christ's flock, but that immediately sparks a critical question about how our Synod boards will actually prioritize funding for each. A really helpful, narrow, delegate-ready amendment for 604 would be adding a resolve that encourages seminaries and districts to actively address these barriers, cost, relocation, and requesting a report by 2029 on improving access without reducing our high standards. This keeps that low control while releasing physical and financial capital for actual students. Your chairman-ready phrase here is, Mr. Chairman, I move to amend to encourage addressing financial and relocation barriers for pastoral candidates and ask your delegation, are we demanding high standards without providing realistic access?
To help bridge these different pathways, Resolution 607 encourages SMP pastors to expand their theological training to get general pastor certification. The opportunity? Equipping our pastors for even broader service. But the council risk is encouraging this massive step without clarifying the costs or scheduling impact. It creates a genuinely noble idea, but with a very foggy invoice. A fantastic amendment here would add clear information on costs, scholarships, and family impact. That releases relational and financial capital. Your delegation huddle question is, does this protect formation while helping real men actually afford to reach it? And your chairman-ready phrase, I move to amend by requiring a transparent report on the financial and familial impacts of this transition. That brings us to Section 3, the oversight tension, where we weigh bureaucracy against true accountability. This perfectly illustrates the tension between necessary doctrinal accountability and completely unnecessary bureaucratic control. For example, Resolution 610 proposes a strict new approval and doctrinal review process for seminary adjunct faculty involving the CTCR. Simply put, it amends bylaws to strictly regulate our adjuncts. The opportunity is definitely ensuring confessional standards, but the castle risk? It's severe over-control. It could become an administratively cumbersome process that seriously slows down timely instruction. While protecting the castle is important, delegates really need to ask if these new rules will slow down accessible instruction for students.
An improved delegate-ready amendment here will require each seminary to maintain its own written policies for adjunct doctrinal accountability, reporting directly to their own Board of Regents rather than centralizing it all. This maintains low control but high accountability, releasing intellectual capital. Discuss this in your huddle. Will these rules prevent our seminaries from utilizing highly qualified local pastors? And at the mic, you can say, I move to amend by requiring local board policies for adjuncts rather than centralized approval.
Similarly, Resolution 608 and 609 demand stricter, more uniform oversight of SMPs by the Council of Presidents. It essentially tells the COP to enforce past mandates. The risk here is vague processes that end up feeling a whole lot like managing rather than caring. An improved amendment would require the Council to provide actual mentorship resources rather than just enforcement tracking. This releases relational and intellectual capital. The huddle question is, does this preserve SMP limits while still honoring faithful SMP service? Your phrase for the chair. I move to amend to focus on district-level support and mentorship resources rather than compliance reporting.
Let's dive into Section 4, Sustaining the Servants, focusing on recruitment and pay.
Because training pastors is only half the battle, right? We must address how we actually sustain them in the field. This brings us to a highly critical resolution, 613, regarding pastoral compensation. Resolution 613 anchors the financial conversation in this extremely clear biblical mandate, urging congregations to provide adequate compensation. The mission opportunity is obvious, worker wellness and retained pastors. But the castle thinking risk? It's giving congregations a strong exhortation to pay more without giving them a single actual tool to do so, leaving them stranded in a budget crisis.
Looking at this through the Delegate Guide's Capitals framework, we quickly see that financial support directly impacts the physical, day-to-day realities of local congregations. So, to make Resolution 613 truly helpful, a delegate should amend it to encourage districts to proactively assist congregations in evaluating multi-point options, circuit partnerships, and shared ministry well before a financial crisis ever hits.
This leads to a massive question for the convention floor. Will the Synod provide actual practical tools for struggling parishes? Your delegation huddle question here should be, does this resolution help congregations thank pastors in practice and not just in words? And your chairman-ready phrase, Mr. Chairman, I move to amend to include district assistance tools for multi-point and shared ministry models. This brilliant little pivot releases spiritual, physical, and financial capital all at the exact same time.
Okay, Section 5. Evaluating the amendments using the 5 Capitals framework.
As you look toward the convention floor, how do you actually know if a resolution is good for the church? Well, delegates are encouraged to weigh every single amendment against these 5 capitals to ensure a holistic approach to kingdom ministry rather than just adding centralized control. When an amendment increases trust, that's relational capital. When it provides clear doctrine, that's intellectual. When it supports the literal physical homes of our pastors, that's physical capital.
When you're discussing Resolution 605, which reaffirms scrification rules, this delegation huddle question cuts right to the heart of the matter. The castle risk of 605 is that having clear rules on paper might still leave prospective students deeply confused about which programs are actually approved. Transparency is absolutely key to releasing intellectual and relational capital here. Your chairman-ready phrase is, I move to amend to require published, plain language guidelines for all certification routes.
Likewise, when reviewing the pastoral colloquy process in Resolution 612, which basically reinstates 2007 bylaws, the risk is an opaque, vague process. An incredible amendment here would be adding a plain language, public guide to the colloquy process, outlining expectations and timelines. Ask your huddle, is this process clear enough that a potential candidate wouldn't be discouraged? And your chairman-ready phrase, I move to amend by adding a plain language, public guide to the colloquy process.
Briefly, just keep an eye on Resolution 614. This one simply streamlines convention business by declining overtures. This is a great example of an item where amendments are likely unnecessary. Honestly, unless you have a specific overture to extract for debate, let this one pass to save precious time for the more critical issues.
Ultimately, your voting strategy is going to navigate this exact table. So, let's synthesize everything into a quick delegate cheat sheet. First, your ranked amendments to consider. Priority 1 is 613, getting real compensation tools for congregations. Priority 2 is 604, addressing the actual barriers to formation access. Priority 3 is 610, ensuring adjunct policies are handled locally by boards of regents. Now, If you need a reusable master amendment paragraph for literally any resolution that feels a bit too bureaucratic, use this. Resolved that this process shall be administered with published expectations, transparent timelines, and pastoral communication, ensuring local mission needs are met while maintaining confessional accountability. If you don't want to amend, just step to the mic and ask, how will this be funded? Or will this hinder our rural parishes? And whenever you address the chairman, keep it super brief. Mr. Chairman, your name, your district. I rise to amend by adding. Keep it narrow and keep it strictly parliamentary.
But listen, no matter the bylaw, the unifying gospel frame of Floor Committee 6 is ensuring the risen Christ continues to feed his sheep through faithful, well-supported pastors. We use parliamentary procedure not to play politics, but to clear the way for the word and sacraments to reach sinners in desperate need of grace. We want a charitable, confessional, and fiercely mission-minded church.
As you prepare for the convention, consider how your voice, your questions at the microphone, and your vote will help build the kingdom while fiercely honoring the truth. Keep your focus on low control, high accountability, and releasing those 5 capitals for the sake of the gospel. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and God's richest blessings on your preparations for the convention.